Hi, and welcome to host chat for John 11. I am the resurrection and the life. First, I just want to say thanks again. Thank you for your perseverance, your endurance, your passion, and your welcome that you have extended to the folks in our small group experience. I continue to hear just great things, and there will be a survey that'll go out to all the participants at the beginning of next week after Easter, so that they can reflect on how this has been a blessing to them. But individually, when I have talked to folks who are participating, they just have had a great experience, and so I that would be impossible without you. So thanks again for stepping up and maybe stepping out of your comfort zone. Really appreciate your helping open the door for small group experience for people to discover the faith of others, to discover Scripture in a deeper way, and for this to be a meaningful uh, additional thing that they took on for the Lenten season to draw nearer to the Lord. Quick reminder that we are going to have a host appreciation luncheon on April 7th at 11:30. First, just look forward to saying a personal thank you. Second, great time for you all to share things that maybe worked for you that might be a blessing to others in the future. Your opportunity to give voice to some things that you wish would have been stronger or could have been strengthened for our next experience when we do that. Haven't fully decided what that looks like. We are going to have a 4-week Bible study that will launch in the middle of April and be the last 2 Wednesdays in April and at least the first 2 Wednesdays in May. So wanted to let you know that. So luncheon on the 7th. Please give your group, if you haven't met yet, a heads up that there will be an evaluation coming. It's going to be really quick. It'll be probably no more than 6 or 8 questions that are really pretty quick to answer. So it'll not take the time and that the Renovo inventory did. So with that, we turn to our last I am statement, John chapter 11. The study guide really encourages us to do 1 through 27, so I'm going to talk about all of that. The odd part about our study guide is that even though it's based on the I am statements at various weeks, the focus has been on the other parts of the passage. This week, they really do a good job of locating in. Before we even start to talk, the questions um, beginning at questions 6, 7, 8, and 9 are clearly the crux of this passage. And, uh, questions 6 and 7 kind of, it's a what do you understand this to be? Take another look. What does this really mean? Kind of pressing that out. Verse 9 is that application. So, how does this really impact your life? And I want to make sure that your groups get to that one. Really, if you just did 6, 8, and 9, that would be fantastic. So, let's walk through this passage together and then we'll have a couple closing comments. Um, Now, in verse 1, we just get the setup of the story. A certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, and we get introduced to his sisters, and we're reminded that Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with oil and wiped his feet with her hair, and her brother was ill. So we get the introduction, and then we hear in verse 3, and then again in verse 5, that relationship. And so it reminds us that this is, in some ways, this is very personal for Jesus. This isn't just a random healing. And this is one of the few I am statements where you're getting a healing and an I am statement together. So this is kind of a unique passage in the Gospel of John. And so the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, he who you love is ill. And then we get to the first thing that really kind of catches our attention. But when Jesus heard this, he first said, the illness will not lead to death. And then he gives us the purpose. And there's two purpose statements about this. And this is important in that, particularly in the Gospel of John, anytime Jesus does a miracle, John refers to it as a sign. It's pointing to some larger reality. He just never does it to flex godly power. He's always doing it so that people might see the truth about who he is. And so tips us off on purpose number one here. There's going to be a second one. But in verse 4, it is for the glory of God that the Son of Man may be glorified through it. So he tells them, here's what's going to happen. This sickness will not end in death, or will not lead to death. And this is going to happen for God to be glorified and for the Son of God to be glorified. So we get the relational language in verse 5, and then the second thing that starts to catch our attention is in verse 6. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place that he was. Now he's a ways away from Bethany. So the fact that he stays 2 days means that there's going to be some time. Jesus knows at this point Lazarus is going to die and be put in the tomb before he gets there. And so it's a great reminder of godly timing. So often we look and the sisters clearly have a desired pacing for this story that is different than God's pacing for this story. And we want to go back to verse 4 and maybe skip ahead to verse 14, that there's godly purpose here, and that timing is part of it. And really, every time we hit a godly timing issue, it's a good reminder for us, or a good question for us. Do we trust the goodness of our God, that he can be trusted with the timing? So that's going to hang there as we kind of watch this story play through. And even if we were to read past ours, we would see this kind of teased out in a couple ways. So after this, he then says to his disciples, let's go the other direction. Let's go to Judea. And the disciples are like, Rabbi, they were just trying to stone you. Why are we going back again? And there's this little interlude here in the middle of it about not only, again, godly timing, but God's purpose and God's plan, God's will for Jesus to what to do. And so in verse 9, we get this, verse 9 and 10, we get this discussion of there being 12 hours in a day. And sort of what he's saying is, you make hay while there's light. You harvest at harvest time. And what that section really means is two things. One is it is still light, even though it's getting late in the day. It is still light on Jesus' earthly ministry. And so while he is here in the light, while he is here during the day, his working day, if you will, we got things to accomplish. So even if things went bad there, he's still trying to reach folks, and he's got a mission to accomplish before he goes to the cross. Second, and I like this impact a lot, uh, he's already told us he's the light of the world. So they're worrying about darkness and alternate plans, and Jesus says, when the light's with you, when I'm with you, we got to keep moving. We got to keep working, and that's a great reminder to all of us, as we oftentimes put too much credence in the circumstances around us. And is this a dark time? Is this the appropriate time? Is this the right time? And Jesus says, if I'm present, there's things to do. There's kingdom building to be done, and so he answers that. So then in verse 11, we segue to this section of misunderstanding. Jesus says, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I will go awaken him. And the disciples just aren't understanding Jesus' nuanced discussion. And the disciples say, well, if he's asleep, he'll just get up and recover. And John tips us off, by the way, reader, in verse 13, Jesus spoke about his death, but they thought he meant taking a rest and sleep. And then Jesus plainly tells them, Lazarus has died, in verse 14. Now, verse 15, we get that second take it purpose. And for your sake, for you disciples, for all of you who are watching this unfold, for your sake, I am glad that I was not there. Not only was he intentionally not there, there was another purpose, not just that God would be glorified, but the disciples then and disciples now might see what takes place and believe. So that's the twin purpose of this passage and this miracle, is that God would be glorified, the Son of Man might be glorified, but specifically so that you might believe. So let us go. And then Thomas gives a great all-in response. Let's go, even if we got to die with him. Let's go do this. A great reminder that Thomas was not consistently a doubter. He gets labeled Doubting Thomas, but that's not the fullness of who he is. Thomas is a much more multifaceted character than that. And so when they get there in verse 17, they find that he has already been in the tomb for 4 days. That 4 days is significant. Uh, Jewish understanding at the time was that the soul kind of hovered over the body for 3 days. So 4 days means that he's gone. He's This is beyond being accidentally interred and being found alive in the tomb another day. At the 4 day mark, all that's gone. This is dead, dead. As the kids in junior high once said, that means stinky dead, right, Pastor? Yes, stinky dead. So, verse 18, Beth, just a tip off. So, Bethany is 2 miles away from Jerusalem, and many of the Jews had come to Mary and Martha to console them about their brother. We get to hear about some of their support staff or group in addition to Jesus. But when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and she met him, but Mary remained seated at the house. We don't want to read too much into that. I don't think I think it's just saying that people process grief differently, because Mary is going to show up in verse 32 and ask the exact same question that Martha is asking in verse 21. But Martha says, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. Now, first, it's a great, honest expectation. Jesus, I know you could have done something about it if you'd been here. And I'm disappointed that that didn't take place. But what I love about this passage is that she still has confidence in who Jesus is. She has a correctable faith. Here's the way I thought it was going to go in verse 21. But verse 22, but even now I know. I know that if you had been here, he wouldn't have died. But even now I know. Even now I have confidence in you, that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. A fantastic example of correctable faith. May we be like Martha in this passage, where we think it's supposed to go one way, and when it doesn't, notice her confidence in Jesus is not shaken. Her confidence remains with Jesus. And Jesus says to her, your brother will rise. Martha says, I know he's going to rise at the last day in the resurrection. And then we get to the heart of the passage. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he dies, shall live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? Now, we want to slow down and really digest this. I am the resurrection. He's not the one who opens the door to resurrection. He is the resurrection. We could turn to, I believe it's Colossians 1, and hear that Jesus is the firstborn. He's the archetype of creation. But there of he's the archetype of resurrection. There's no resurrection without him. And the only way that you can do that is through him and in him. And so he's saying he is the resurrection. He doesn't open the door to resurrection that you can walk through on your own. He doesn't just give resurrection. It is uniquely him that is the resurrection, and he's the life. Now we've heard the life aspect over and over and over again, tied in almost in the majority of the I am statements. Um, but it's saying that he's the light. In John 1, he's the one who was the light of all men. He created all things. Uh, he's the light of the world. That's going to shine the light on things so we can have that. He's the light that leads to true life. And so we have that he is the resurrection and the life. Um, that makes complete sense. If he's the one who created all things, he's the source of life in the beginning. If he's the one who redeems all things, he's the source of redemption life. And if he's uniquely the resurrection, he's the source of eternal life. When we really read it in fullness, he is it. He's the one who gave us breath. He's the one who holds it all together. He's the one who paves the way that we might have renewed salvation life here on earth, a joyful and abundant life that he came to give. And he's the one who opens the door and is the way to eternal life. So it doesn't get more comprehensive than this. He is the resurrection and the life. And then notice what he says. So that's not just enough to know cognitively. He says to her, whoever believes in me. Now notice what it doesn't say. Whoever knows trivia facts about me, whoever knows some things about me, says, whoever believes in me, in him is the person, the same way that Martha exhibits here, that Martha believes even after it doesn't go the way she wants it to. I still have confidence in you. I know that God will do whatever you want him to do. Um, Everyone who believes in him, that's the important part. It's not about him. It's not things surrounding him. It's not a list of what he can do. It's a heartfelt faith confidence in Jesus as resurrection and life. And then he tells us the byproduct: everyone who believes in me shall never die. Um, we're going to live. This death is not the end. Do you believe this? And she says to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who's coming into the world. Now, our passage stops here. If we were to continue, we would find that Mary comes out and asks the same question that Martha does. We would read about Jesus weeping. We would hear that Jesus prays publicly so that the people might hear his relationship with the Father, and that the Father gives that. And then we would hear Lazarus come out of the tomb. Technically, Lazarus is a resurrection because he's going to die again, right? He's going to have a physical death. We don't have any alternate account that Lazarus was called up to heaven like Elijah, but he died and then again he was resurrected. So this is a miracle raising. This is a miracle resuscitation that points to the wonder and the promise of resurrection. Great stuff to discuss this week. I am once again just so thankful for your participation and helping illuminate who Jesus is in this Lenten season. I pray that it's been a blessing to you, and I know that it's been a blessing to your group. I know it's been a blessing to our church, and so once again, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you. Take care, and God bless.